Congress just did something most people watching this haven't heard about yet. And if you receive Social Security, or you will one day, this affects you directly. A brand new bill was introduced on Capitol Hill, and it could shape the future of your benefits for decades to come. There's one part of this bill that catches almost everyone off guard, and I'll get to that in just a minute. Stick with me, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what's in this bill, what it means for your check, and what you should be watching for next. Let's talk about why this matters. Social Security isn't just a line item in the news. It's the primary source of income for tens of millions of retired Americans. And for years now, you've probably heard warnings about the program's trust funds running low. That's not a rumor. It's based on official government projections. The Social Security Board of Trustees has reported that the program won't be able to pay full benefits after 2034 without legislative action. That's the backdrop behind this new bill, and it's exactly why lawmakers are finally moving dot. So here's what actually happened. In June 2026, a new piece of legislation was introduced in the House of Representatives called the Bipartisan Social Security Commission Act. This is a big deal, and I mean that literally. It was introduced by Representatives Tom Cole, an Oklahoma Republican, and Tom Suozzi, a New York Democrat. When you see a Republican and a Democrat co-sponsoring a Social Security bill together, that's worth paying attention to. Bipartisan cooperation on this topic has been rare in Washington for a long time. Now, here's the important part, and this is where I want you to slow down and really listen, because there's a lot of confusion online about what this bill actually does. This bill does not cut your benefits. It does not raise your retirement age. It does not change how much money is deposited into your account next month. What it does is create a formal, structured process for Congress to develop a long-term fix for Social Security's finances before automatic cuts are triggered. Think of it less like a benefit change and more like the first domino in a longer chain of reform. There's another important deadline tied to all of this, and I promise we'll get to that shortly. Let's break down exactly what's inside the bill, because the details matter. The legislation would establish a 13-member bipartisan commission to study Social Security's finances. This isn't just a random group of politicians thrown together. There's a very specific structure to how these seats get filled. According to the bill, 8 members are chosen by congressional leadership, evenly split between parties. 4 are appointed by the chairs and ranking members of the House Ways and Means and Senate Finance Committees. And the 13th member, the chair, is appointed by the president. That quote, "It's not all." The bill also requires that at least 2 of the congressional appointees must be non-elected, outside experts, meaning people from outside the political system, presumably economists, actuaries, or policy specialists, would have a direct seat at the table. Once the commission is formed, it isn't given unlimited time to sit around and talk. The bill sets a requirement to produce a solvency plan within 1 year. Here's where it gets interesting, and this is the part most people miss. Whatever plan the commission comes up with doesn't just get thrown out for endless debate. The bill requires that recommendations must receive bipartisan approval, at least 9 of the 13 members, before advancing. And then the final proposal would be fast-tracked for a vote in Congress without amendment. That last part is significant. It means once the commission agrees on a plan, lawmakers in the House and Senate wouldn't be able to pick it apart piece by piece. They'd get an up or down vote on the whole package. If this structure sounds familiar, that's because it's intentional. Lawmakers modeled the bill on the 1983 Social Security Commission, which helped forge bipartisan reforms that extended the program's lifespan. That 1983 effort is widely credited with saving Social Security from a funding crisis at the time. So in a real sense, Congress is trying to recreate a process that already worked once before. .it, quote. It's also worth knowing, this isn't the first time this exact idea has been floated. Cole has led or co-led versions of this same bill across 7 different Congresses. That tells you 2 things. First, this idea has staying power and real support behind it. Second, it also hasn't passed yet, despite multiple attempts, which is a reminder that introducing a bill is very different from that bill becoming law. Let quote. Put this into a real-world picture. Imagine you're currently receiving Social Security, and you've been hearing headlines for years about the trust fund running dry. Every time you see one of those stories, it probably raises a little anxiety about whether your future payments are safe. What a bill like this actually does is create a formal pathway for lawmakers to act before that shortfall hits, rather than waiting until the last possible moment and then scrambling. It doesn't guarantee a specific outcome, but it does put a structured process in motion with real deadlines attached. Or suppose you're someone in your 40s or 50s, still years away from claiming benefits. You might be wondering whether the rules will even look the same by the time you retire. A commission like this is exactly the kind of process that would shape those future rules. That's why it's worth understanding now, rather than only paying attention once changes are already finalized. Now let's talk about the exception I mentioned earlier, because this is the detail that trips people up the most. This bill, on its own, changes nothing about your current benefit amount. It creates a process. That process could eventually lead to real changes: higher taxes on certain earnings, adjustments to the benefit formula, changes to the retirement age, or something else entirely. But none of that happens automatically just because this bill was introduced. This bill is step one of what could be a much longer road, and it hasn't yet passed the House or the Senate. That's also true of the other Social Security proposals currently circulating in Congress right now. And I want to be clear about this because there's a lot of noise out there. There are multiple other bills currently being discussed alongside this one. Some would raise or eliminate the taxable earnings cap, which currently sits at $184,500 for 2026. Others focus on changing the retirement age or the formula used to calculate annual cost of living increases. There's also a separate proposal sponsored by Senators Rick Scott and Greg Murphy that would reportedly eliminate the earnings test entirely for people under full retirement age, meaning those who work while collecting benefits before reaching full retirement age wouldn't have money withheld the way they currently do. None of these have become law. They are proposals at different stages of the legislative process. And it's important not to confuse introduced with passed. Let's talk about the common mistakes people make when they see headlines like this. Mistake number one: assuming a bill becoming public means your benefits are changing next month. That is not how this works. Bills can sit in committee for months or years, get modified heavily, or simply never come up for a vote at all. Mistake number two: assuming this is a done deal because it has bipartisan support. Bipartisan sponsorship helps, but it still has to survive votes in both chambers of Congress and potentially reconciliation between different versions. Mistake number three: panicking that this commission means benefit cuts are coming. Nothing in this bill mandates cuts. It creates a structured way to prevent automatic, across-the-board reductions by acting ahead of time, rather than waiting for the trust fund shortfall to force the issue. So what should you actually do with this information? First, don't make any major financial decisions based on this bill alone. There's nothing concrete enough yet to act on. Second, keep an eye on whether this bill moves out of committee and gets scheduled for a floor vote, because that's the next real signal of momentum. Third, if you're within a few years of claiming Social Security, this is a good moment to review your overall retirement plan with a financial professional. Not because anything is changing today, but because staying prepared means you won't be caught off guard if and when something does change. And fourth, keep watching for updates, because this is exactly the kind of story that can shift quickly once committee hearings begin. I promised I'd close every loop I opened, so let's do that now. The exception I mentioned at the start is this: the one thing this bill does not do is change your benefit amount directly. It only creates the process that could lead to future changes. And the important deadline I referenced earlier is the one built into the bill itself. If it becomes law, the commission would be required to produce its solvency plan within 1 year of formation, with a fast-tracked vote to follow. That's the timeline worth watching, should this bill actually make it through Congress. Let's bring this all together. Congress has introduced a new, genuinely bipartisan bill aimed at addressing Social Security's long-term funding challenges, not by cutting benefits directly, but by creating a formal commission with a real deadline and a streamlined path to a vote. It's modeled on a process that worked once before, back in 1983. At the same time, several other Social Security-related bills are moving through Congress, covering everything from the earnings cap to the retirement earnings test, and none of them have become law yet. The headline takeaway is this: nothing has changed for your benefits today, but the groundwork for future change is being laid right now. And staying informed early gives you the advantage of never being caught by surprise. Have you been following the Social Security solvency debate, or is this the first you're hearing about this bill? Let us know in the comments and tell us what state you're watching from. It helps us understand who's tuning in from around the country. Social Security has weathered funding scares before, and reforms have come together in the past when lawmakers worked across party lines, just like this. Whatever happens next, the most important thing you can do is stay informed, stay prepared, and avoid reacting to headlines instead of facts. If this video helped make sense of what's actually happening in Washington, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe if you're not already part of the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next update the moment this bill moves forward.